I want to talk to you about a project that's very dear to my heart and that I've been working on one way or another for 20, even 30 years. This has arisen from some intense study in the history of religions and philosophies, and also the history of science. But more recently it was sparked by my experiences as a secondary school teacher, working as head of religious studies and philosophy in a number of very high-performing schools with very, very bright children. Now, in my subject of philosophy and religious studies, the only way to level with bright kids is to tell them the truth. But I know enough about philosophy and religious studies to know that the real truth is very, very complicated, because all the religions on the planet are all interconnected. Islam has been influenced by Christianity, by Zoroastrianism. Sufism has been influenced by ancient traditions. Ismaili Sufism has been influenced by Buddhism. Buddhism was influenced by Hinduism. Bon was influenced by indigenous pagan traditions in Tibet. The Celtic Druid traditions were influenced by, ancient peoples whose names are lost to antiquity, and so on and so on and so on. When you actually start talking about the complexities of these religions with bright students, A, they get very interested, they want to know more, but B, they say, well, why has nobody told me this before? Puzzling about these problems, I came up with a formula of presentation, really. And I do owe to Mendeleyev, the great Russian chemist, the idea of the periodic table of the elements. He felt, logically speaking, that all the elements of the chemical world are interconnected. There's a formula you can apply whereby their relationships can be embodied and presented systematically in a table form. The periodic table of the world's religions and philosophies, which is what I've come up with, is a very simple table, a formula, to present really mankind's self-reflection, the result of thousands of years of thinking about ultimate truths, ultimate matters. And it's done in simple table form, you can see here, colour-coded for each of the great spiritual traditions of the planet. Christianity in blue, the ancient primal traditions in green, Hindu religions in yellow, and so on. And within each of the main traditions, it's subdivided into the separate categories. So within Christianity, for instance, you have Roman Catholic, you have the Anglican, the Methodist, the Presbyterian, and so on. And the same with all the other traditions. What's unusual about the periodic table here is that you also have the secular, the non-religious, the atheistic, the agnostic, the humanist. There's a separate colour orange for the humanist traditions, as they're called. One of the big conversations we need on this planet is between religious believers and non-religious believers. As a philosopher, I would say truth lies somewhere in the middle, but we're never going to find it until we at least get a peaceful discourse going. And at the moment it's vituperation, it's insults, it's sometimes out-and-out violence. Another thing that's very important in the table is the presence of the new religious traditions. So the grey represent new religious movements, as they're called. A lot of people don't even realise that mankind's spirituality didn't just stop, when Sikhism came or something. I mean, it's an ongoing process. Within each of the great faiths there are new insights, new teachers coming all the time. Sometimes they take major constellations, like Methodism in the 18th century in Britain, say, or the Quaker movement, which has its own box. But there are also whole new religious traditions being developed, insights. Most new religions do draw on what's gone before. It's very, very rare that you get a religious teacher saying, I've come to bring a totally new message, I'm going to transform everything and just listen to me. Mostly they're polite and they'll say, no, I'm in a lineage, I come from a tradition, but I'm bringing a new insight. You get that even with Jesus and Muhammad, both of whom acknowledged previous teachers, but then said, yeah, and I've got something new to say. So we do have genuinely new religious movements on the planet, and those are going on in the grey boxes, and they're fascinating. Things like the Baha'i tradition, and others like the Gurdjieff teachings, or the other newer concepts like ufology and cosmism has a box, for instance. So what do we do with that? It's a map. Just stick it on a wall? No. It's an active, dynamic map that you yourself can get involved with. We're all somewhere on this map as explorers of the frontiers of knowledge. I hope that this will be used in schools, in colleges and universities, in all thinking institutions where people are interested in truth. It's a map of the ultimate truths on the planet and how they can be brought into harmony and coexistence. It can also be accessed on a website which a student of mine has created, where you have the whole table presented, and then you can click on each box which carries certain data, just as in the periodic table of the elements. You can access how many people follow that particular teaching, how many people in the whole of history estimated to have followed it, where it was found at its geographical location, who were its great teachers and saints, what are its main texts, what are its ethical values that it lives by, what are its metaphysical teachings, and if it's a spiritual path, then what are its names for ultimate reality, or God, or gods, or goddess, and so on. So there's a wealth of data gone into it. As I say, 30 years of intensive study and so on has been encapsulated into this table. You can now access it for free on the internet. This is giving away knowledge. I take the view as a teacher. I can only teach so many people in a class. But as a planet, we have the right to know this stuff. The internet is the vehicle, it seems, of planetary intelligence, if you want. So let's use it. And there's also an interactive forum. You can get involved. If you're a practitioner or a follower of a particular faith, you can post messages there and share what you're doing, share your new insights, share your views. If you're a scientist working at the forefront of your own field of research, again, you can post data. In addition to the website, there's also a book which accompanies the table, which has been published. It gives the data, basically, concerning each of the 168 boxes in tabular form. It also explains the logic and theories and the thinking that's gone into making the table. And it explains the context, the classes, the teaching, the thinking that's gone into it. And now, you could say, well, what is the logic? What's the order? Why are they in this particular shape or pattern? It's all explained in the book. I'm not pretending that this order is fixed in stone, that this table is the only one, that it has some kind of divine mandate for being in this order. I'm not saying that at all. As a scientific tool, it's offered to the global community as one way of doing it. Unlike the periodic table of the elements, there's no specific correlative augmenting number system that means that you jump from box to box. It's more by rough chronological order. So, for instance, the early ones are the ancient primal traditions from very early times, and then gradually as you come down, they become more and more sophisticated. And what I'm saying as a peace scholar and a philosopher is that we must have a map of how we get out of the conflicts and the violence we're stuck in and shift towards a world where we can coexist in harmony. You might not be surprised in effect to see that it looks a bit like the colours of the rainbow. That's deliberate. The rainbow's always been a sign of peace and synthesis. And what we're lacking on this planet is a kind of peace policy. The politicians, the military leaders, even most of the religious leaders, talk from one of the boxes and say, we're right, we're true, we have the answer. What I'm saying is that, no, we don't. None of us do, alone. Put all the boxes together, understand each other's perspective. That's the beginning of the right questions even, before we can let alone come to the right answers. So join the conversation, look at the website, and get involved. Thank you so much.